Breaking news. Donald Trump's big mad about the Trump economy. And so this afternoon, as we just discussed, he ordered the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the part of the Department of Labor that collects and reports American employment data, to be fired. They don't do anything else. They just report the data. Now, did Trump do that because the stock market tanked today after the jobs report showed an anemic 73,000 jobs created last month? Or did he do it because he needed yet another outrageous distraction from the Jeffrey Epstein scandal in which he and his administration are currently deeply engulfed? Maybe both. But for sure not for the stated reason that the BLS commissioner was somehow biased against him. I'm pretty sure he didn't know who the BLS commissioner was before this morning. The bad economic news and Epstein were both front-page news today after Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirator and convicted child sex trafficker, was quietly moved to a women's-only minimum security federal prison camp in Texas, just days after Maxwell met with the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, Trump's former criminal defense attorney. NBC News reports the Federal Bureau of Prisons did not specify why she was transferred, but according to the Bureau's designation policy, Maxwell appears ineligible to be housed at a minimum security prison camp because she's a convicted sex offender. Sex offenders must be in at least a low-level security prison like Federal Correctional Institution Tallahassee, unless she received a waiver. Only the administrator of BOP's Designation and Sentence Computation Center can make that decision, according to the waiver policy. Trump played dumb today when a reporter asked about what Trump meant Tuesday when he said Jeffrey Epstein stole people from Trump's Florida club.
7 years from the time that you learned that people were being stolen from Mar-a-Lago to the time that you picked that you took Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, I don't understand your question.
I don't understand your question. Don't let me ask you to repeat it or clarify it. I'm just going to move on now. Nothing to see here. Except Bloomberg reports that Trump isn't in the Epstein files because his name's been blacked out. An FBI Freedom of Information Act team redacted Trump's name and the names of other prominent public figures from the documents, according to 3 people familiar with the matter who were not authorized to speak with the media. That team, tasked with conducting a final review of the voluminous cache, had applied the redactions before the DOJ and the FBI concluded last month that, quote, no further disclosure of the files would be appropriate or warranted, end quote. The family of Virginia Giuffre and 2 other Epstein and Maxwell survivors said this about Maxwell's prison upgrade, quote, President Trump has sent a clear message today. Pedophiles deserve preferential treatment and their victims do not matter. It was with horror and outrage that we object to the preferential treatment convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell has received. Ghislaine Maxwell is a sexual predator who physically assaulted minor children on multiple occasions, and she should never be shown any leniency. Yet without any notification to the Maxwell victims, the government overnight has moved Maxwell to a minimum security luxury prison in Texas. This is the justice system failing victims right before our eyes. The American public should be enraged by the preferential treatment being given to a pedophile and a criminally charged child sex offender. The Trump administration should not credit a word Maxwell says, as the government itself sought charges against Maxwell for being a serial liar. This move smacks of a cover-up. The victims deserve better. Trump wants to make his own reality. Jeffrey Epstein, nothing to see here, in spite of the obvious lack of transparency from him and the administration and the obvious questions raised by that. He wants to do the same thing, by the way, with the economy. The Dow dropped 540 points today, capping its worst week in a month on the heels of today's jobs report. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, which I mentioned earlier, reported that the U.S. economy added just 73,000 net new jobs in July, and the job gains for May and June were revised down by a combined 258,000 jobs. And so Donald Trump, without any evidence, said today the numbers were, quote, rigged in order to make the Republicans and me look bad. A total scam. Not only is today's employment report uniquely bad, but revisions to the prior month show that on average we've seen 35,000 net new jobs created for the last 3 months. January was revised down to 111,000. February was revised down to 102,000. March revised down to 120,000. April, 156,000. May was revised down to 19,000. June was revised down to 14,000. There is simply no way to put lipstick on this pig. And here's the thing. Most people don't follow data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Most people understand the job market viscerally. They see it in their paycheck, in their bank accounts, in their grocery bills. Trump cannot truth social his way out of what Americans are experiencing with their own eyes and their wallets, but that's not going to stop him from trying. Hours after the release of that weak jobs report, Donald Trump fired the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Erica Mettentarfer, on social media. He told reporters this.
I believe the numbers were phony.
It's phony numbers. Not Donald Trump's arbitrary and damaging trade war, which he's still pursuing in a way that is arbitrary and damaging, and as a federal appeals court heard this week, quite possibly illegal. The Wall Street Journal editorial board isn't confused about it. Mr. Trump seems to understand that the jobs report signals trouble because on Friday he ordered the firing of the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. He claims the numbers are being politically manipulated, but he offered no proof. BLS has its problems, but the timing suggests he's shooting the messenger. There are bound to be monthly revisions when tariffs and deportation policies are so volatile. Mr. Trump's other scapegoat is the Federal Reserve, which he says has been too late to cut interest rates. Maybe that'll prove to be true, but the Fed also has to navigate Mr. Trump's tariff uncertainty and the large fact that inflation is still above its 2% target. Every public opinion poll says voters remain unhappy about the price increases that they're.
Former President Donald Trump is once again at the center of political controversy after abruptly firing the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS, Erica Mettentarfer, following the release of a dismal jobs report. The BLS, a division of the Department of Labor responsible for collecting and reporting U.S. employment data, reported that only 73,000 jobs were added last month, one of the weakest figures in years. The report also revised previous months downward by a combined 258,000 jobs, signaling a broader slowdown in the labor market. Trump claimed without evidence that the jobs report was rigged to make him and the Republican Party look bad, calling the data phony. The move to dismiss the BLS commissioner came within hours of the report's release, raising alarms that the decision was politically motivated and aimed at silencing unfavorable economic data. The firing came amid mounting turmoil within Trump's administration and growing public scrutiny over the economy, which has seen declining job growth, continued inflationary pressures, and an increasingly volatile stock market. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 540 points on Friday, capping its worst week in a month. Analysts note that the administration's erratic trade policies, combined with legal uncertainties over tariffs and deportation practices, have contributed to the economic instability. Observers suggest Trump's actions were part of a broader pattern of distraction and deflection. Alongside the bad economic news, new revelations emerged about convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell, the longtime associate of Jeffrey Epstein. Maxwell was quietly transferred to a minimum security women's prison in Texas, despite federal regulations that prohibit such placements for sex offenders. This move came just days after Maxwell reportedly met with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who previously served as Trump's criminal defense attorney. The transfer drew sharp condemnation from victims' families, who called it preferential treatment and a cover-up. They accused the administration of protecting a convicted child predator while ignoring the suffering of Epstein and Maxwell's victims. The families released a statement expressing horror and outrage at what they described as leniency toward a serial liar and sexual predator. The Epstein case continues to haunt Trump as questions persist about his past relationship with Epstein and why his name was redacted from the FBI's released case files. Bloomberg News reported that Trump's name, along with other prominent figures, was blacked out during a final Freedom of Information Act review conducted by the Justice Department and the FBI, which concluded that no further disclosures were appropriate or warranted. When asked by reporters about remarks he made earlier in the week suggesting that Epstein stole people from Mar-a-Lago, Trump appeared flustered and evasive, refusing to clarify his statement. Critics say the administration's actions, including Maxwell's prison transfer and the firing of the BLS commissioner, reflect an ongoing effort to manipulate public perception and divert attention from politically damaging stories. Economists and political analysts alike warn that Trump's interference in federal statistical agencies undermines public trust in nonpartisan institutions. The Wall Street Journal's editorial board criticized the firing as shooting the messenger, arguing that the data itself was not manipulated and that Trump's trade and fiscal policies were to blame for the economic slowdown. While Trump continues to dismiss unfavorable statistics as fake, Experts say that most Americans don't need government reports to gauge the economy. They experience it firsthand through rising costs, stagnant wages, and shrinking savings. Amid this turmoil, reports surface that Trump's family members are profiting from new business ventures. Bloomberg revealed that Eric Trump's stake in a Bitcoin mining company could be worth as much as $367 million as the company prepares to go public. Meanwhile, Republican senators recently voted against an amendment that would have blocked taxpayer funding for a $1 billion Qatari jet reportedly being refurbished as a gift to Trump upon leaving office. The combination of economic decline, political interference, and financial self-interest has fueled growing concern about corruption and accountability. As one analyst put it, something is rotten in the Trump presidency, and it's not just what Trump claims it is.